welcome to a new episode of our program, The World Today, where we are going to be taking a look at the latest updates and the events on the political scene, and not only in Egypt, but in the region and in the international arena as well. We are going to be starting off with Al-Ahram Online and, of course, the news of today and topping the agenda on the visit of the Chinese President Xi Jinping to Egypt. That is expected to start on tomorrow, and it will be taking place for a couple of days. He's currently in Saudi Arabia for talks, and he's going to be also arriving tomorrow to Egypt. There's going to be a number of agreements that will be signed between Egypt and China regarding different investments, particularly in Ain Sokhna area at the northern part of Suez. And we are also expecting to have a speech that will be delivered live by the Chinese president here at the Arab League in Cairo, as well as he speaks to the Islamic world on China's views and policies regarding the Middle East region and the developments taking place in the Middle East region. There's also the 60th anniversary of the China-Egyptian economic ties. We're going to be taking a short break. When we come back, we're going to be joined in studio with our guest who's going to be speaking with us today about this very crucial visit indeed, and much other issues as well. Stay tuned.
Explore Egypt. From Cairo to Alexandria, Sharm el-Sheikh to Hurghada. Try to discern the mystery of the Sphinx. Meditate on the symmetry of the pyramids. Explore incredible marine life in Marsa Alam. Safaris into the desert of South Sinai. Relax with a view of the Nile. Explore Egypt on Nile TV International.
كان يا مكان زمان في بلدنا هنا كان عايش أمير جميل، كانت كل الناس بتحبه.
أنا حبيت قوي، بس تقدري تقولي هي ما حبتنيش أو لا، هي ما عرفتش إن أنا بحبها.
Welcome back. You're still tuned in on our program, The World Today, and we're very much delighted to have joining me here in the studio Mr. Zakaria Uthman, a journalist and writer at Al-Ahram. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. And right before you stepped in our show, I was talking about the expected historic visit by Chinese President Xi Jinping to Egypt. He's currently in Saudi Arabia. Later on, he's going to be going to Iran. There is a lot on the agenda of the Chinese president. Maybe the most important highlight is the several agreements that is going to be signed between Egypt and China. How do you view this visit, especially that it has been recalled a number of times last year? He was supposed to come earlier than that.
Yes, actually, I think that China is the world's second largest economy. Consequently, its own President, Mr. Xi Jinping's visit to Egypt is regarded as an unprecedented visit to our nation. I think that such a visit has its own connotations and positive indications as well. For most among all, it refers to China's realization of the importance of Egypt as a strategic country in the Middle East region. Second, it refers also to China's realization of Egypt as a key player in solving most of the Middle East region countries' problematic issues and crises such as the Syria crisis, Libya crisis, Iraq crisis, and even the Yemeni one. Third, it also refers to China's realization of the fact that Egypt has deeply rooted historical and very important ties with all the other Middle East countries. Consequently, if Beijing wants really to start a mutual relationship of any kind with any country in the Middle East region, it's better for Beijing to start it through Egypt. Fourth, Egypt has the Suez Canal, which represents what is ranging between 10 and 12% out of the global naval trade traffic. Consequently, China realizes all these facts. In addition to that, the Chinese president is expected to discuss the bilateral issues between both countries, I mean between Egypt and China. He also is expected to stress on, during his talks with Mr. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, on the issue of development and peace, specifically in the Middle East region. So I think that a lot of common important issues between both countries will be discussed elaborately. In addition to that, the Chinese president is expected to attend the launching of the second stage of the Egyptian and Chinese commercial and industrial zone.
Yes, in an Sufna area, yeah.
Exactly. All these things reflects the Chinese interest in Egypt as a strategic and a fundamental country in the Middle East region.
Yes.
At the same time, I think that such a visit will concentrate on allaying the tensions, the current tensions between Saudi Arabia and all the other Sunni countries, for most among them Saudi Arabia, specifically after the protesters' parent or attacked the Saudi Arabian embassy in the Iranian capital Tehran, in addition to attacking the Saudi Arabian consulate in Mashhad. All these issues will be scheduled on the agenda of the Chinese president during his expected visit that he already started
today
in
Saudi Arabia. We'll take him later on to Iran as well. We move to another article, particularly the Egypt Independent newspaper, and an article that talks about the performances of the parliament that is ongoing on its continuous sessions because they have a deadline to meet. Many controversial laws and decrees on whether they are going to accept or ban or reject, rather. They've been talking about the journalist ban laws. They have over 340 decrees that they have to finish before their deadline, and they've been working continuously. There's been a number of sessions late yesterday, Monday night, today, and afternoon sessions as well. Generally speaking, how do you preview the performance of the parliament so far?
It's actually, I think that the Egyptian parliament has had a lot of tasks that it is supposed to finish and within a specific date or a deadline, because as I have previously said in a past part of this program, the Egyptian government and specifically the executive power has signed a lot of agreements with so many other countries abroad. So the Egyptian parliament is supposed right now to approve all these agreements, in addition to a lot of bill of laws that have to be approved by it. All these things need to be discussed, and that is to be discussed as quick as possible by the Egyptian parliament. And that is why the Egyptian MEPs or the Egyptian members of parliament are discussing day and night and holding sessions consecutively in order to finish all these bills of law that Egypt needs necessarily to achieve its own economical and political progress that all the Egyptians are looking forward.
Yes. Mr. Zakaria, also finally, because we're running out of time, a very important article to the Gulf News where we see Pakistan trying to play as a mediator, coming up with new initiatives that could help ease the tensions between both the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Iran. And we do know also that over the weekend, all of the US, the EU and the UN have lifted their economic sanctions against Iran that has been ongoing for several years. And we do know also that Ali Khamenei in Iran had sent congratulatory messages to Iranian President Hassan Rouhani, thanking him for his efforts, but also keeping into consideration what they call the treasury of the United States, not to give too much trust, in other words, to the United States, because they have seen or tested their waters a number of times. I want to know from you here the two aspects of the story, taking into consideration again the very important point, which is the petrol and the prices of petrol that are going down dramatically. And now that the sanctions are lifted on Iran, it seems to be that there's another way out of this crisis through the help of Iran, because they're also rich in oil. How can Pakistan play a positive role in being an intermediate player between Iran and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia?
There's actually the Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and his army chief arrived yesterday to both of the Saudi Arabian capital Riyadh and its own counterpart and its own Iranian counterpart Tehran to play a mediation role between both countries to achieve what is called rapprochement of viewpoints. And I think that Pakistan, as a Sunni country, has its own motivations or motivated goals to play such a role. Actually, I think that the Pakistani Prime Minister will try to convince the Iranian leadership to stop its own interventions, specifically on the Gulf countries, because the GCC, the Gulf Cooperation Council, and specifically Saudi Arabia, is not looking forward to having anything else except stopping the Iranian interventions in its own territory. What happened over the past time, and specifically immediately after executing the Shiitic cleric, indicated a clear Iranian intervention in the Saudi Arabian affairs, because what happened was just a Saudi Arabian juridical sentence that should have been respected completely, but
especially as An-Nimr was charged on terrorism charges and not just because he was Iranian. Unfortunately, our time is up there. Mr. Zakaria Osman, journalist at Al-Ahram and the writer as well, thank you very much for your insight, for joining me, of course, on The World Today. We thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. Stay tuned. The top stories are coming your way.